Okay, Kevin, thank you ever so much for coming down to Llandudno and taking time out to join us on this podcast. So I'm not going to keep you very long, but we're just going to ask you a couple of questions, if that's all right.
Sure.
How have you found Llandudno so far as a town and the football club, etc.?
Well, as a town, I know the town pretty well. You know, where living, only 30 minutes away, you seem to head this way, obviously. And but I must admit, I don't really come down too much in the summer. It's usually in the winter, and when the kids were smaller, we used to come down maybe at least once a month. And it was mainly just for the kids to go on the bikes on the prom, up and down, so they never got bothered. If it wasn't there, it was real. Somewhere where it was quiet, but you try doing that in the summer with the tourists, then you've got no chance. But yeah, I mean, it's changed a lot since I was last year at the football club. It's changed that much that, I didn't know where I was going to start with. But once I was here, I was like, I would have come a different way.
Yeah, no, very good. So we've had a quick chat just before we started filming about the team we've got at the moment and how Jordan, our manager, and what have you, and how the season's gone on and what have you. We've got a young squad, as I was saying to you, and I was just wondering, is there any bit with your decorated career? Obviously, you've come across young players, you've been a young player yourself, and obviously in your managerial career. Is there any bit of advice you would give towards maybe Jordan as a manager or the young lads as players?
Well, the thing is, as a manager, you've got to believe in what you're doing. It's the right way. But it's having good people around you. I was lucky enough that I had good people around me, and I took an old manager with me, a fella called Ken Roberts, that used to be manager at Chester, played for Aston Villa as one of the youngest players to play for Aston Villa back in I think it must have been the 50s, 60s.
Right, okay.
It'd be more early 60s, I would have thought. And Ken come in on the youth side, and I took him to Shrewsbury with me, and he was a shoulder to sort of lean on, not cry on, but to lean on, and ask his advice. What would you do in this situation? And sometimes that's to help you in the managerial career. That's something that I desperately think that you need, and I think it's a lot when sort of people who leave the game of football. You don't know everything, and sometimes you don't know how to handle players, and especially when they're out of line, and then you find that it's whatever you're doing is not working. They would have experienced that, and they can help you in that. On the footballing side, like I say, sometimes the things are different now in the way that players are brought up. They're all brought up with iPads, so they're not really thinking for themselves.
No.
Whereas in my day, you had to think for yourselves because we didn't have iPads, and it took too long to write down and do on a chalkboard.
I think it was it Clough, Brian Clough, that said that to be a manager, you have to be two types of manager of a football club and a man manager. Obviously that's going back to
managers the one thing. And I would imagine the lower down you go, is you're a coach as well. A manager and a coach is the same title. Whereas you find now managers sometimes aren't managers, they're coaches. The management of the football club goes to other people, and you deal with the football inside. And the other thing is recognising in good players that is going to suit you. And the one thing you've got to do is, and I always say this, doesn't matter what level you are, if you're bringing a player in, he's got to be better than what you've got. If you want to improve as a team, that's the one thing you've got to do.
So a lot of people say how football has changed over the years, etc. Obviously, from when you were playing back late 80s, early 90s, it's changed dramatically over 30 years, hasn't it?
It's the pitches. Pitches completely just baffle me at how well they are. They train on better pitches than we played on. So obviously the game's going to get quicker. Passing's going to get better because you can take your eye off the ball and still control it. Whereas back in the 80s, and I would say prior to that as well, even maybe early 90s, you had to watch the ball right onto your foot because it could take a last minute bobble or whatever. And for me, the pitches are just like a dream. Preparation for games, We're more prepared for games than we've ever been. And that's good. I think that's improved. I think technically we've got better because of the pitches. There's no doubt about it. I think the influx of all the, of foreign coaches coming in have opened our minds a little bit.
Yeah.
Foreign players have come in.
There's certainly different cultures around the same game, isn't it?
There's that many different cultures now where you only had one when I played.
Yeah.
And
gone are the days of the boggy pitch as well, isn't it?
Yeah. So the cultures, I mean, as in the, the countries that are representing the club, there's all multi sort of like cultures, and it's adapting to that as well.
Yeah.
And realising that you're not all the same.
So with that as well, moving on, you captained your country at quite a young age. A lot of people have spoken about, etc. Do you look back at that and think maybe it's a bit of a daft question? You wish you had the information and the knowledge you have now back then, or did you feel that you were in?
I think that's in life.
Yeah.
I don't think it's in football. Just in football. I think in life that if you had a 50-year-old head on you, you'd do things different at 20 years of age.
Quite true. But did you feel at the time, captaining, you were ready for that position, that appointment?
No, it was a shock to me when I got thrown the armband. When I look at the players that were around me, local lad, especially Joey Jones, was in the squad, and it just sort of, I don't know. I was captain of Everton at a young age, and it was. Once again, that surprised me when I first got the armband then. And when I look around the players, the experience in the team, and just me. But I think Colin Harvey had a big say in it, as in because he was my youth team and reserve team coach. He wasn't in the first team, around the first team at that time. And I think he must have had a word with Howard to sort of say he's captain material, he's captain my youth teams, my reserve side. And eventually Colin moved up to be first team coach. So I think he had quite a bit to do with it as well.
Right.
And I think, sometimes you want stability and seeing that somebody that's going to be at a club for maybe a few years.
Yeah.
So I think that was the one as well.
Definitely. No, great to hear. Just the last one, we've had Darren Moss has joined our management squad or team.
Oh, good luck.
As we call them. So I won't finish the next question then. No. But is there anything could you throw Mossy under the bus for anything, or?
Mossy under the bus. I was very, very lucky to have him, especially when Wrexham were getting these young kids from everywhere, and he was at Chester City Football Club.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe our luck, really. All I can say about Mossy is he should have played at a higher level. I threw his name into the under-21 squad with Jimmy Shoulder, and I think he was only 19, maybe 20, touching. I said, this lad can play anywhere. He can play right back, right wing back, right centre back, right midfield, centre midfield. I said, you'll find he must be your best player that's going. So after a couple of days, I phoned him up. He was in Italy, and I phoned him up and I said to Mossy, I said, how's it going, Mossy? He said, guess who I'm rooming with a lad from Man United. I said, yeah, but you're better than him. He's not playing first team football, is he? And I phoned Jimmy Shoulder up after to see how we got on. He said, you're right, he was our better. And I played him in 3 different positions, and he was by far the best player we had. I'm not too sure if he went to Aston Villa for a trial when he was at us with another lad, but I just left then, not long left. So, but no, he was good for me. I took him to, obviously he must have been, I took him to Shrewsbury. Yeah, so he didn't let me down. Good. That's the one thing that I look at players, and from a young kid, from a 16-year-old when I first went in, he was destined to play first team football very, very young.
Well, that's brilliant to hear. Let's hope when he listens to this, he's got double doors to get out.
He'll be knocking on your door for a rise. Give him a kick up the backside.
Anyway, Kevin, we said we wouldn't keep you too long, so thank you very much for joining us, and hopefully we'll see you around Llandudno again.
Great stuff.
Brilliant. Thank you.